Punisher Warzone 2008 adaptation of the Punisher comics by Marvel. Main actor in this one was Ray Stevenson, played Frank Castle. We just finished watching it. It's like 2.5 hours, or well, just like I think it's just 2 hours. But yeah, I don't know. Is it a bad movie or is it a good movie?
I don't know. From my opinion, like I haven't seen any of the comics. I haven't watched anything else. So the first look at it, looking at it from a cinematography aspect, it's got some kind of shitty cuts. The gunplay is somewhat unrealistic, I guess. But overall, I don't know. Like, the action is... I don't know. I didn't feel like it was that tense. Like, the whole time he's going to win. It's one of those, like, dumb things. So, I don't know. I kind of felt like it was kind of dumb.
I mean, I thought it was still entertaining, though, is the thing. And for me, it's like movies are important. Like one of the most important things when you're watching a movie is that it is entertaining. So I would say I would probably judge it as like a movie that is a bad movie, but that is still like kind of fun to watch, even if it's just to make fun of like the bad stuff, like the fact that one of the actors looks like a discount John Cena, right? Yeah, and just doesn't look very doesn't look very good, but yeah. So, I mean, does this? What do you think of the Punisher? I mean, this is your first experience of the Punisher character, right? You've never read the comics or anything.
No, I've seen it in of course, Marvel will advertise their shit all the time. It comes to games; they have their weird apps they do. Occasionally, they'll show that off, but I don't know. It's it seems kind of boring. I guess it's just a guy with guns, and looking at this, if you really wanted to, given you'd pay the government a shit ton of tax money for tax stamps for destructive devices, suppressors, and all that, automatic weapons, but you could do that, and you could become a real life Punisher. This is not a superhero. This is some redneck, in the maybe in not New York because they got some strict gun laws, but maybe someone who moved and didn't register all these guns, and someone who's taken on themselves. You could literally become Punisher today. You could get all the same guns, all the same shit, and I don't think it's that special, honestly.
So he's more of a vigilante than an actual superhero.
Yeah, in the movie it describes him as a vigilante, and it's true, but it's something that if I really want to, if I had as much money as I wanted, I could get all the stuff I wanted, and I could do the exact same thing if I had the connections and all that. I could do that easily.
Well, he's basically Marvel's Batman, He's the opposite, where it's Bruce Wayne's whole family died, but he was the son. Frank Castle's whole family died, but he was the dad. And so they both have that trauma. They're both the edgy superhero kind of. But Frank's a little different because he doesn't really even consider himself a hero. He's more of he's almost like a villain who just kills other villains. That's usually how the comics treat him. But he's one of the most controversial comics from characters from Marvel because of the whole gun thing. When all the political stuff happened in 2016, people started calling him the NRA mascot and everything, and with all those whatever police brutality controversies, you had a lot of situations where people would get mad at cops for wearing the Punisher logo on their shirts and stuff with the police stripes and stuff. So I don't know. As from that political angle, what do you think of him? Do you think that he can you see that being a thing where he represents police officers and guns or NRA and all that?
Well,
a concern. He's being. People have called him. Well, they've called him an alt-right, icon or something. Yeah, the far right likes him too much. So then, in the comics, they changed him to make him a little more woke or something.
I can see that because all the liberals think that all these Republicans want to own guns, but there's a lot of liberals that own guns. I know a few that own a lot more than my family does, and it's just it's an American right. You can own firearms. Now there's certain things like automatic weapons, suppressors, and anything like a grenade launcher or anything like that. Grenade launchers are destructive devices are considered under there. Even if they're not able to be fired anymore, you still got to pay a tax for that. Suppressors got to pay a tax. Automatic weapons you got to pay a tax for, and then looked like one of his guns was a short-barreled rifle, so you'd also got to pay a tax for that. So I don't know. I can see it. Like, it makes sense in the gun community, and the NRA is like, they support like gun rights and all that, and so I can see it's for that. And it seems like today, the Republicans have been more, or the conservatives have been more pro-gun than the liberals. So I can see that. And then law enforcement, I can see that especially because it feels like as long as I've been around, like you got some people like supporting the police, but most people like the liberals are just bashing them. Like every single time, like, oh no, someone shoots an African American, and it may be for an unjust reason or it could be for an entirely just reason. But as soon as people start rioting, they start defunding the police, and then there's no one there to help the police. Everyone's against the police, so as soon as the police like have someone that's on their side, I feel like they will support that. That's why we have the whole Back the Blue movement. I support it. I support my local law enforcement officers because there's people like me. I'm willing to defend myself, but there's people that aren't, that don't want to own a gun, and they still need to be defended and protect the public interest.
But do you think that Frank Castle would make a good spokesman for the Second Amendment?
I don't know. I would say, like, you could say, okay, I don't know if he's paid his taxes. It looks like he's getting his guns illegally, so that part, no. And the fact that he's using them in an illegal manner and in a vigilante manner, I wouldn't agree. I would say if you're going to do it, a good spokesperson would be like, someone like, and this is probably a controversial take, but Kyle Rittenhouse.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What he did is people like, oh, he wasn't even from the city. He lived there in Kenosha. And, technically people called him a vigilante, but no, his life was like, he felt his life was being threatened, and he used what we call stand your ground laws, where if you feel like your life is being threatened, you can, first you got to like brandish a firearm, which he did. They did not stop, and so he shot them. That's a good member for, supporting stuff like the NRA and this movement, because he did it. He followed every law legally. He did everything right. As such as someone like Frank Castle, no, he's breaking laws. He's not a good spokesperson. If he was to go up there and try to represent, I would believe that he would probably get stuff shut down more than help it.
Yeah, pull up to the fight scene, the first one at the mansion. I liked the action. I actually liked all of it, even the corny action. My problem with the movie was that it was a little too long, and that there was a lot of dialogue. There was a lot of dead space where they just did a lot of exposition, and I don't think that the actors had the chops, necessarily to pull off a lot of it. The only good acting I would consider throughout the entire movie was like all the goofy stuff with like the villains, like the main antagonist, Jigsaw. I thought he and his just any of the characters that were surrounding him, I thought they were good in like a kind of a goofy comic booky way. But that's the whole thing about the movie. It comes across like a comic book. It feels like you're watching like a live action comic book. And so in that respect, it is kind of cool. It's good for what it's able to do as a low budget film, but I also it does feel like a fan film, like you're watching like something that someone made and put on like YouTube or something. And maybe the fact that it's from 2008, I mean, maybe it's a little old as far as like the special effects, computer graphics, CGI, all that kind of stuff goes. But I liked the fight. I liked especially this scene that we're watching through right now, the showdown at the mafia place with the guy in the wheelchair. And I wanted to ask you, like a little Mythbusters-esque style question. Do you think it's possible to get on a chandelier like he does in this scene and like spin around with like two AK-47s in his hand and shooting like that? Because you're into guns, right? So you could probably like come up with like a hypothesis based on what you know, right?
Yeah, it looks like they're not AKs. It looks more like what he's trying to use is from this. If I can get a better view. Yeah, but is there anything? But yeah, you can see from this. Go back. It looks like what he pulls out is. Damn it, I don't want that. But from here, you can see it looks like an MP5. Looks like two tones. So you got the bottom kind of receiver part of it is black, and you got the top kind of like, kind of a gray, like a light gray. Looks fairly simple. With that, that's HK's kind of style right there. But they don't have stocks on them, which is okay. I guess, some people don't need it. some people don't believe in 3 points or third point of contact. But for the hanging on the chandelier aspect, I don't think it would work as well as it looks in the movie. Because in the movie, it's how he's hanging. It's like he's hanging on one side of the chandelier. And the chandelier is hanging off from only a center point, like most chandeliers do, not multiple. So since he's hanging on from like a side point, or his feet are, the chandelier should be hanging off to the side. So he should not be super accurate with this. He should be like kind of tilted at an angle. And, then instead of being like just a straight circle on like a horizontal plane of like bullet fire, it would kind of be, I guess, kind of like some of the like planetary rings that you see over in like Saturn and stuff, how it's kind of angled. It's not there. And then also, not to mention, spinning and firing like that is just a horrible idea because you're spinning in one's position. As long as they fire in that position, you're most likely going to be hit. And yes, I know he has a bulletproof vest, is what they say, but unless he's hopped up on meth or something, the whole point of a bulletproof vest is to make it so you don't like take the bullet. But those things deform. They crack ribs. They save your life, but they crack ribs, and you still got to go in to get stuff like that looked at. So he'd still be hit a couple times, and he has a bunch of the times in the movie, and acts like he just shrugs it off. You would like be taken aback, like in kind of the final scene, you see like he gets shot, and he's kind of taken aback, and then he just kind of stumbles back to it. But with this, even just spinning, they don't have like the super like fast fire rate. And also I think for the mags he has in 30 rounds,
right,
he'd run out of those before this scene was over.
Yeah.
But he would miss a lot. Just spinning isn't very accurate because you get like, you shoot one here and you shoot one here, but then as it spreads out, you're creating a spot where you're going to miss a lot of area. Right. And so the amount of people he hit, I disagree with. And I think in this scene, there's a lot of like bullet holes, and it looks like you shoot 9mm. It should be a pretty small hole. It looks like some giant hole, something like even bigger than maybe a 50 BMG. It's just retarded. I don't think they got it right, but it's an interesting scene, I guess. It's all movie magic, Hollywood movie magic. It wouldn't work in real life, but it's supposed to, I guess, wow the audience.
Yeah, and you said you didn't like the gunplay in the film in general.
I don't know, like in the final scene, it seems like they got their act together, but in the very beginnings and stuff, it just wasn't there. None of the stuff was there. Just in the end, it seems like maybe he had some like training when he was going through that like old hotel. Yeah. Clearing room by room, but I don't understand like the moment where he's like, there's no one on the floor, he doesn't hear anything, and then he just stops and he like goes like this, and he just does like Rain Man hearing and somehow tell where they are. Yeah. I think that's kind of dumb. It doesn't make sense. Like, how do you know where they are? Like, they were standing there pretty quiet, and suddenly, like, from halfway down the hall, which there'd be a ton of soundproofing because there's tons of different rooms, you can somehow know where they are. Like, I kind of doubt that. Yeah. But, with the way he cleared rooms, the only thing is that, one time, I guess he kind of messed it up and was apparently going through a room, and there's a guy behind the door, which, you kind of want to check that too. You would, try and take care of the people in the room, and you don't want to let yourself be in a position where someone could be behind the door.
What do you think of the villains in this? You had Jigsaw. You had the mafia people. You had what was it? What's his name? Looney Bin, Jimmy or something? Looney Bin Jim. Yeah. What do you think of those guys?
I don't know. Like, Looney Bin Jim was just seemed like he was like high all the time, and just the way he acts and just the stuff he can take, just like okay. But also at the same time, I would say I feel like Punisher could be high with how much like punishing he's taking and then just continuing on.
Well, you think he might be like getting through this by doping himself up on something?
Maybe because it was that all like the like stuff he's like taking, like being beaten, constantly. Like I would say there's something even like. Being able to, like, when he shoots him with the, like, a revolver, and, it's a decent size. It's not, I don't think it's 44. Might be something a bit bigger. But, because I've held 357s, I've held 44s. The way they're designed in the movie, they look a bit bigger. Could be, like, 460. Yeah. But, just shooting that, like, he was shot in the chest and in the back. And, that would stop you for a bit. You would be on the ground, like you wouldn't, even with adrenaline, you'd probably Like it's too sudden of a shock, like being shot. Like you can get like hit with like a razor, like a scooter in the knee. It's sudden, but then like you get taken aback by that. You get hit in the shin. It's like that. You'd like with that amount of force, you'd probably break something.
Right.
And even shot in the back, like one hitting directly in the spine, that wouldn't be good.
No.
Because that might immobilize you, and depending on if it like dislocated something or severed some of the nerves down there. So I think it would have. I can see a kind of skit of this where he gets shot in the back and suddenly just decripple. And he's just there. He's like trying to crawl towards him or something. I can see that, but that'd be kind of funny. But I don't know. I think the villains though, like the crazy stuff that I guess Jigsaw is not too crazy. It's just whatever. The doctor's like, oh, your tendons in your face and like your ligaments aren't gonna like be there. They were all gone, and then somehow he's able to like move his like lower jaw to speak and his lips and all that. You wouldn't be able to do that. No. And so the doctor was either lying and talking out of his ass, or it's just movie trying to make it sound bad.
Yeah.
But what's weird about, I guess it's just design, but Jigsaw, it's like he's got like it's like okay, almost all the skin is like right. It's been put on kind of how it should be, but you can see one maybe looks like it's like going through necrosis. It wasn't put on right, but the other one is like been stitched on backwards.
Oh yeah.
A doctor wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think a doctor would put on something that's like dying.
Yeah.
Because then it's just going to cause infection to anything it's touching.
So his wounds aren't even realistic.
No. I don't think a doctor wouldn't do that unless, like maybe if, I would think like people like kind of, in the underworld, even doctors there would be better than that. But, I guess if they were trying to use his own skin, it looked like it was shredded by the glass. I don't think... So I'm guessing the skin's coming from other people, which is kind of hard to do unless it was a skin graft. But I don't know. I think something like if you did something weird like Red Skull would be better. But I guess his brother, Looney Bin Jim. I don't know, man. Like he's reciting random facts. It sounds like applesauce and liver are like a delicacy in Sweden. It's like okay. And then he's just like beating on Punisher, and he's like, "Oh, that's severed like this, or that's that broken." It's like I don't know, like fist fights that can happen, but he's wearing a lot of stuff where that's taking a lot of the blow. I don't think stuff's happening like that.
Yeah, I think we'll keep this one short because there's not really that much to say, and it's also way longer than I think it should have been. I think it would have been better as like a fast-paced, maybe hour-long movie. I mean, the only other things I can think of to go over are. There was a Irish Jamaican guy at one point, the parkour people, and then there was the guy that played the dude from Jurassic Park and Newman from Seinfeld. He was Microchip, the sidekick who gets spoiler alert killed at the end. So I mean, do you have anything to say about those guys?
I find it funny how he's like, this isn't gonna hurt at all, and then he just turns and lets like Jigsaw like kill him. He's like, this isn't gonna hurt, and he just turns and like blows out Looney Bin Jim's head.
Oh yeah. And
then just instead, then like Jigsaw like kills him, which is okay, I guess. But it's weird. Like we saw the entrance wound, and he just kind of slumped over. But there should be some sort of exit stuff, and typically the bullet even going through the brain, it would exit with a lot more blood.
Oh yeah.
And it just didn't do that, so it's just kind of like crappy CG. But justice for my boy Dennis Nedry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, out of 10, how much would you give this one?
I'm gonna say a 4.
A 4, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd give it like a 5.5 at least. I don't know. It was still entertaining. I mean, it's like fun to watch. It's just not a good made. It's not a very particularly well made movie, but it's still. I mean, I don't know. It's still kind of like a fun comic book, like turn your brain off, like action kind of movie. Almost like a beat 'em up kind of game, but as a movie, but not really. Like a shoot 'em up, more like.
I guess, but for me, it's just I haven't seen any of the comics, and then coming from him, like living in the tunnels, like underneath the subway system, it's just kind of weird. I don't know, like. I don't know where the hell he's getting his money from. Is he like stealing it from the people he kills? Like, I got so many questions that are left unanswered by this movie. And then also like, he's just like One time he visits the grave and then just starts like tripping out about what happened to his family, and then it's just like it shows him lying there and just suddenly he's back to it. So whatever. It's like moments. It's like it's like sometimes he's vulnerable with his family, and then sometimes he's just like not.
He just doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Like when the girl was going through his like kid stuff, he's like, I don't care. He's just like, sure, you can have it, but as soon as he's by the grave, he's just like having a flipping meltdown.
Well, I think he was supposed to show that, like, he's kind of moving on a little bit when he's talking to like the wife and the daughter of the guy he got killed, because that was like the more kind of personal arc that he went through or whatever, where he accidentally killed an undercover cop during one of his moments or exploits, and then that whole thing ends with him kind of redeeming himself for it a little bit, maybe.
I don't know, but I don't even think the movie showed us like him killing that guy, so I don't even know where the hell that came from. So we went into this movie just assuming that he's killed someone.
It's either from the comics that the thing was adapted from, or because there's a particular storyline. It was like Garth Ennis, who's a comic book writer, artist. I think, I don't know, someone. I'm not like fully. It's more my dad's thing to be like into that kind of side of it. So I don't know, but yeah. I think Garth Ennis is a writer, and I think he wrote this for the Marvel Knights storyline, which was like a run back in the 2000s, mid to late 2000s. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, I liked it, but it's not lore heavy, you know what I mean? It's not like his origin story or anything really. It's more just like it's like in a comic book where it's like you get like a random adventure, and then he just kind of goes on it, and that's it. He's just kind of like the character in the adventure, you know what I mean?
I guess if you're picking up a comic, like, let's say I go to the comic book store and it's like issue 58 something, and then I'm picking that up and trying to go with it instead of like, his origin story. Like, you could pick up the origin comic and have an idea, and you go from the beginning to the end, but I feel like I'm hopping in like, halfway through this adventure and I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Other than just there's action, but other than that, I got no clue. Like, why did he set up shop in a subway? You could have set it up probably in some abandoned building or abandoned warehouse, like a normal person, where it's not super noisy,
Right. Yeah.
and where the structural integrity is going to be in question with the subways going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I guess that's just why I just didn't rate it super high.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's not it's not the best, but yeah, I don't know. I still thought it was fun, but that's about it. I mean, yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. Could have used more money though, and it's not as good as like the actual comics. Yeah, well, yeah, but yeah, at a certain point, it's like I would rather read like maybe Punisher Max or something, one of the darker Punisher stories, But it was still fun. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like, but not every comic book movie is like MCU. So, but I kind of liked it because it was a little bit of a break from the MCU. So I kind of appreciated it for that. But that's about it. Yeah.